everyone, welcome to another Classic Movie Monday, and today I'm going to be looking into another Charlie Chaplin film. This one in particular titled The Kid. It's probably one of Charlie Chaplin's more famous works that he's done over the years within the early days of Hollywood. That being a lot of his career stems through silent filmmaking. In other words, where there are no words and there may be certain parts where they'll show a certain amount of dialogue, but for the most part, a lot of it is through emotional expression and kind of giving you a visual sense of what's going on rather than trying to express it with words. And this is at least one of the more famous ones, and it's definitely one that I understand as to why it has received so much recognition over the years. But basically, this particular piece involves Charlie Chaplin adopting an orphan, and you'll sort of see how that comes about and the sort of conflicts and hijinks that ensue with him and this orphan child that he sort of adopts as his own. And what I think really works well, and what I don't think we see in a lot of filmmaking, at least nowadays, is the certain amount of simplicity. This is very stripped down. It's not like modern day filmmaking where it's all about spectacle, it's all about trying to push the boundaries and create new worlds and try to do this very elaborate story rather than doing something more, I guess you could say, close to the heart. And here, this is really where this kind of more, again, straightforward and simplistic approach really works to this particular film's advantage. Because you ultimately do see the connection that Charlie Chaplin has to the child, and you sort of see how the child has that similar kind of attachment to Charlie Chaplin as well. So it really does focus in onto their relationship, and also onto their surroundings, which are really not well off. I mean, they're in a pretty poor environment, and they just sort of just try to survive together, and it's a very nice approach to a film because, again, usually you don't see these kinds of stories where it's just about kind of two characters just trying to kind of make it through life, so to speak, and having various things happen to them. And here it's conveyed so well that it ultimately, I think, gives off a very profound and a very emotional effect, to where there is, I think, a huge amount of investment that the audience can get from a film like this without, again, having to rely on trying to create some really big, elaborate, emotional spectacle. Again, it's just simple and full of, again, the heart. So that's just something that I think, again, it's something that I don't think we'll see within film ever again. And that's what I think, in particular, these older films really do remain timeless, is just by the fact that, again, they relied on so little, but were able to give off a very deep impression nonetheless. And I think it's safe to say that with a film like this, you may or may not see where it ultimately leads to. Again, they do try to create sort of a plot that's involved with the child, since him being an orphan and all. And you'll sort of see how that plot sort of is ultimately carried out as they're kind of going through various conflicts and hijinks. And it gives off a lot of charm and also a lot of, again, gives off heartfelt moments as well. So you really do get a really nice blend and balance here. And I think out of a lot of the other Charlie Chaplin works that I've seen, this is really one that does really convey things ultimately really well as far as comedy and drama is concerned. Because you've got the sort of traditional Charlie Chaplin sort of slapsticky kind of humor, but then you also have the sort of heart behind the story of Charlie Chaplin and the kids sort of going through life together and just doing random things. And it's nice to sort of see the more kind of everyday, especially considering around that time period, you know, you really kind of do get a feel of what people's sort of lives were like, especially ones who didn't really ultimately have a whole lot, um, and probably uh, represented a good sort of majority, at least, of the population during that time. And this is, I think, approaching, again, since this is made in 1921, or this was made in 1921, it has a certain amount of age to it, and you can obviously see that. But again, despite the fact that it is so old, and um, I would say probably a lot of people were never really around when Charlie Chaplin was around, we still kind of remember him, and we still remember his works and remember what he sort of provided to cinema earlier on, when it was initially sort of starting and getting its uh, foot off the ground, so to speak. And really, the silent era did uh, bring about a lot of interesting works. And again, Charlie Chaplin was sort of the king of this particular era, I'd say. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say about this particular film. I think it is rather enjoyable. And again, even if you don't really know the characters' names, even if you don't really know um, too much about them, the relationship and then the way they show it is just so human that it really um, does it there it feels very natural, and it doesn't feel in any way, shape, or form forced, and you do feel the connection. And I think that's what successful films are capable of doing, and it's really utilized here, and you really do see it through Charlie Chaplin and the little boy. So I think, though, that's, again, ultimately all I can really say, though. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.